So we tend to view the insights from big data as positive things, but are there downsides to it as well?
I think it's a mistaken assumption that they're viewed as positive things. I think within some of the technical community, that's the natural insight,
Good
because
point.
we sort of understand machine learning, we understand what's going on. I think there's a fairly substantial set of the population for whom this is all still very mysterious. They don't quite understand what big data is, how it can be used to benefit the world. And so I think it's incumbent on those of us in industry who do this type of work to start demystifying big data, make it a little bit more easy for the average person to understand, to feel comfortable with. And then there's also, of course, the aspects of giving people control over their own data that are critical here.
Now, do analytics bring up questions of fairness? When you're pointing out the best of the best and that's easily identified, will everyone else be disregarded? Your primary customers, the ones you want to target, that kind of thing.
I don't know if I think it brings up any more issues of fairness than life 20 years ago did. I think that it's the mystery, right? The fact that some of us are very uncomfortable with the idea that it's happening sort of behind closed doors, that there's data analysis that we can't see and we don't understand that's driving these decisions. But it's not clear that it's really any different than, for example, old forms of media doing targeting based on basic demographic information or price segmentation based on the zip code in which the store is located. So I think there are some issues of fairness. I think that we are going to grapple with how to articulate what's different about now versus 20 years ago and how to solve for what's different. But I don't know that I think it's as different as we're inclined to think.
So how can organizations make sure their analysis doesn't go too far? Are there systems they can set up? Are there checks and balances they should institute?
So this gets at the issue of responsible data stewardship, in my opinion. So as a company that's operating on large sets of data, there's some basic things you need to do in terms of transparency and control for the end user of what data about them is being used. To the extent that the data you're using is not about a particular individual who can be easily identified, there's even aspects of responsible stewardship that apply there. So providing transparency into what you're doing, even if it's not transparency of, I know exactly who you are and what this data is about you, but transparency of the types of data that we collect, the types of analysis that we do, and the repercussions of that analysis, how we're using it. And I don't think that we've figured out how to do that transparency very well, that latter part.
So last question, expanding this a little bit. Now, you had a blog post recently where you looked at how a credit card company didn't use data that it already had. Do you feel that the lost opportunities of data analysis are on par with some of the potential threats?
Potentially.
Yeah.
I would hesitate to say a strong yes, although that's my instinct. But I think that in general, we are so afraid of crossing that creepy boundary when it comes to data analysis that we stop ourselves from doing the next big thing. And that there's potentially a lot out there that we just don't even know we can do. Right? Flu Trends was the big thing that sort of was the aha moment for me a few years ago. When they built that search engine in 1998, they didn't know. I can't believe they didn't know. They're smart, visionary guys, but I can't believe Larry and Sergey thought, we're going to identify flu epidemics with this data, right? And so I do think there's an element of opportunities we aren't even seeing because we get distracted by some of the fear.
Right. Interesting. Well, thanks so much for being with us. Appreciate it.
Thanks.